Hey guys.
Hi. So Christian Ortega from Movie Network PR.
Hey Christian.
Pierre, congratulations on such a fun movie.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, what were your influences when making this film?
Oh wow, I'm sure you picked quite a few of those. Yeah, I think you guys know it, but I think it was, from the beginning, what was the idea was to actually have kind of tell a little bit of a or make this movie a little bit of a gateway for the family audience into the world of heist movies, and so therefore, we kind of turned ourselves directly to the usual suspects, let's say. So obviously, it actually started with Tarantino, really, on that first cover of the cover of the first book was those kind of 5 animals with those black suits, and for me it's Reservoir Dogs, with a bit of a Blues Brothers twist to it, but it really was, a little bit of a nod to Tarantino in his cinema, which I love. But then how do you adapt this for kids? Tarantino carries a lot of swearing and blood and violence, so it was the balance was to actually find a way to just get them to appreciate that cinema. And so it was kind of a logical next move for us to turn these criminals into these 5 bad guys into kind of gentleman thieves. And then that's where we kind of turned ourselves towards Danny Ocean and Soderbergh's movies and the Ocean franchise. And of course, there's a bit of Snatch to it, like Guy Ritchie. But that came more out of, the cutting style of Guy Ritchie, and I grew up with it, and which I always loved, that complicated plot and twist. But also, I think what really attracted me in Tarantino was the soundtrack. He's always got that amazing, soundtrack and use of music in his films. And Guy Ritchie kind of, in Snatch at least, did the same thing, where it was like those seemingly like not working together kind of string of songs that supports the film, and I kind of wanted to try something like this, so that was also the idea. So yeah, this is Soderbergh for sure, the heist genre, like the pure heist genre, The Sting and all of these other ones. Snatch a little bit, Tarantino of course, and then on the animation side, for me was to bring in the flavor of European animation style and a little bit of anime too, and kind of breaking the mold of what we usually see in American CG animation, changing the design of the characters a little bit and even the rendering, and bringing some more illustrative, like graphic elements to it.
Thank you for that.
Of course.
Pierre, my name is Felix Caraballo.
Hey, Philip.
Love that answer. I love the film. And now that you mentioned all those references, I specifically love the Tarantino references.
Yeah, thank you.
So I love the film even more with that answer. So having coming from the animated world or specialized or focused on the animated world, how different was this project in terms of the locations, the recording, the selection of the voices from your previous work?
Well, first of all, I never had been in that seat, in the driver's seat, not for such a big project anyway. And so it was the first time for me having to record actors of that caliber. And so in that sense, I think the process was very similar to the rest of the film we were making. The one thing that I wanted to try, though, was to get them more together to record the voices and try to really play off of each other, because we were inspired by those live-action films. I kind of wanted to make, give justice to those witty dialogue that Ethan had written, and therefore have them play off of each other. And so we often recorded Sam and Marc together, and Sam and Zazie as well, so that there was that interaction and they could also improvise. Not easy to do in animation because we're on a sound stage and a sound booth, and they tend to overlap, and then we can't really edit those lines, because that's really a lot of the work in animation. You just you work from storyboards and you try to craft the performance. So a lot of editing goes in that. But what happened was COVID, and thanks to the pandemic, we ended up having to record our actors in different parts of the country sometimes in their own kind of sound studios or even at home sometimes, which allowed us to actually just record them remotely, and then they could totally now overlap each other because we had separate soundtrack for each of them, which was great because they could completely, interact and play with the characters and play with the sequences and improvise and bring their own flavor and just the right pacing and the right rhythm. That was fantastic because I got to witness some performances from these guys on my sofa and watching them, play, and it was mind-blowing. These guys are like top talents, as you know, and when you see them be at the peak of their art and do it as naturally as you and I are speaking, it's so inspiring. It's incredible. Oh yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
Of course. Thank you.
My name is Rafi Mediavilla from Critical.com. Pierre, again, congratulations on an amazing story. I love that you mentioned Ocean 8. That's the one thing that I got when I first finished seeing the movie. And you just mentioned something really important. You had an amazing cast. When you got the script, what elements of the story as an editor, you felt that you needed to stand out? What elements of the story you felt like I need to stand out this part of the story? What elements were those?
Oh, you mean on reading the first draft of the script? Yeah. I think that whole side of the heist genre was not in that first draft. But weirdly enough, for me, that was the combination of reading the draft and seeing that art from Aaron that it was obvious for me. And so therefore, I kind of crafted a little trailer based on that script and based on my own inspiration, just to show the studio that what I wanted to do with that genre that, we just discussed about. But what element of the script at this point, once we had figured this out, was grounding a little bit more the story. I mean, I don't know if you guys have read the book yet, but Aaron takes those books to some very pushed extents. You have crazy gun, laser, rays and whatnot, and so. Because we were seeding it into something a bit more grounded, like the heist genre, we had to ground the story a bit more. So that was one element that we had to do. And the other thing was also making sure we also dove deeply enough into the character's arc to really be able to relate to them and just make sure that we had, we really were able to carry the theme of the story, which is, giving a second chance to somebody who didn't necessarily have a second chance, somebody who's been doing bad things, and it's a story of redemption, as you guys know. And so, diving a little deeper in the emotional side, it was probably, more comedy than heart, and I think I wanted to rebalance that a little bit.
That worked, thank you.
Of course.
All right, I am Jessalyn Lancaster. I work for Movie Guide. And I know you referenced a lot more mature films as your inspiration, but you also incorporated so many positive values in this movie, like redemption, self-sacrifice, calling out the good in others. Can you speak a little bit more on that? Yeah,
I think, definitely. And I think I myself was going through some, kind of midlife changes. And I drew a little bit of that experience and just, reflected it back onto our main character. And but I think those are important. Those are values that I want my children to grow up with. You just don't judge someone without knowing their past and their background, their own experiences, and get to know them a little bit better before making your own opinion about who they are. And I think these guys were on the receiving end of all of this, not having had the chance to really, be anything else than seen as the villains of every story, and I think that message is incredibly important, to pass on to younger generations. Of course, it's lighthearted. Of course, it's a comedy and an action film, but I think it still comes clearly throughout the film, and definitely, children gets that. They get it, and reinforcing such positive messages with a fun story to watch is always a great way to inspire younger generations to be better people.
Absolutely, thank you.
Of course.
Ian Capata with LRM Online.
Hey.
Pierre, congratulations on your first feature full-length animation film.
Thank you.
I wanted to relate to that because there was so much action, so much going on. So I'm going to ask you an animation question: is how do you keep up with this fast-paced animation style? Because I know you've been in animation projects before, but how do you pull that off in this film? Because there was so much going on, and I even noticed like the backdrops and the backgrounds and everything, car chases, chasing, running scenes, everything. How do you pull that off?
Well, thank you. First of all, I'm happy that you say I pulled it off. I mean, sometimes I say, oh, this is too much. No, I mean, first of all, it's not just me, it's a whole crew, obviously, as you guys know, and a crew of very talented professionals who are there also and just know their craft and are really, you know, so well versed into the art of animation, just whether it's camera or, you know, movement. I've always been attracted to action scenes, you know, and just I love a good action scene, but I love when it has a little bit of a spin to it. Frankly, to me, the real trick is to make sure that you don't do an action scene when you don't do an action scene without knowing where the goal of your characters. You know, if it's an action scene for the sake of an action scene, you're gonna get bored really quickly, and the audience will get bored really quickly. And I think every action scene that you see in this movie, you know exactly why it's there and what the characters are trying to do and what it's supposed to be telling you as a story. You know, and that dance scene, for instance, which is a heist, you know, it has so many layers. It's dense, so it's fun to watch. But for a reason, it also has a heist and then a massive character turn-in underneath all of that. So I think it really is all about, you know, making sure that the audience understand why you're doing that scene. And then after that, it's I think it's a lot of it came from my love for animation and just watching other, you know, animators and other artists do it, and then how can you subvert it so it becomes kind of a unique version of that action itself, you know. And it's supported again by the artwork or the lighting that goes in it, like really matches exactly the mood of the moment and makes it unique. The style of motion, the style of the stylization of the fights or the car chases also match that. And while grounding it with a camera that is kind of a camera that you will know, you know, it has a little bit of a live action feel to it. It's an interesting blend, but I'm quite proud of where we landed with this one, frankly. But yeah, in terms of pacing, it's true that it's quite fast, and you still yet are able to follow it, you know. Did that answer the question?
You did, because I was holding my breath from start to finish, and I was trying to figure out like when we're gonna have like that break it back. So you did well.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Hi Pierre, this is Maggie from US News.
Hey Maggie.
You have such a diverse cast.
Yes.
Film. And I was just wondering, when you cast them, do you have someone in mind already, or you actually just went through a casting process? For example, Awkwafina for Miss Spider, and she had played a character in Ocean's 8. I was wondering if that's the inspiration.
I think Awkwafina was probably, I don't know if, hadn't she done Ocean 8, I don't think it would have changed anything, and I think she was on our mind almost from the beginning, because she's so unique and such a powerful, you know, personality, you know, as an actress. And because Miss Tarantula is the only female in the cast, we wanted her to be incredibly charismatic, you know, against these four dudes around her, you know. So we needed like a talent that would support this. And she, I mean, hands down is like one of the most entertaining, you know, member of this cast, and she's so charismatic doing her, you know. And so I think she was probably the one that we all had in mind from the beginning. And then we went through a casting process for the other characters. Aaron Blaby, the author of the books, had some of his own thoughts because he had been living with those characters for like 5-6 years already. For me, it was like I came in and just trying to craft the story first, and then after that came the casting process. So we worked with Christy Soper, who is our casting director, helped her do that. And the idea was not to get the usual suspects, you know, even though for us it was like Wolf is George Clooney, basically. But then Wolf evolved, and if we wanted George Clooney, we would have asked George Clooney. I think we needed something different, you know, we wanted a different flavor. Basically, I needed a character that would be a wolf deep down, you know. It could be, if he needed to, he could be able to snap and be be show kind of a raw quality in his acting. And so, I mean, Sam really quickly came up, and Sam has got that incredible, you know, balance of fantastically talented, obviously actor, but cool, super cool at the same time because not too mainstream. And I think that's exactly the balance that we wanted to strike with this movie. It's like great, cool cast, but not the usual suspect, not like the cast that we all go towards like first thought, you know. We wanted like, okay, an edge to it. And I think I'm so happy that we got that cast because it really reflects that. It's fresh, it's different, and yet it's incredibly cool and a cast of terribly talented people, you know. And so once Marc said yes, he was the first one that we cast. I think the rest of the crew was like, the rest of the cast was basically saying, well, Marc's in it, I'm in it. Of course, I'm in it. It's just so good. This guy is like, he's a legend among the actors anyway. So it was great to see everybody just kind of respond this way and just willing to be part of this adventure, you know.
Thank you.
Of course.
Pierre, I'm Rito from the Philippines. I really enjoyed watching this because I wasn't really familiar with the book before this. But what made you decide to focus on this particular story for your first feature film?
That's a great question. I think I said it just before, but I think it was watching that, discovering that cover of that book, you know, the first book that Aaron had written. You know, it's just a simple cover. It's like orange, and then you have the 5 or 4 characters, because Tarantula comes later, in suits. And the idea is so clear. You know, it's such a big idea. Those 5 legendary animals that we're all scared of, and we all made our stories on. Sometimes, like most of the time, unjustly, really, but dressed up as those crooks. I think there was something in there that was so powerful for me, and it just brought up, oh my God, I want to see these guys drive a car like you would see in Fast and the Furious or Baby Driver or whatever, you know. It was so fun to imagine a wolf driving a car like this and like strings of money flying behind them. I think that came from there, you know, and then I started reading the script, and I realized the script took those characters from before the book. So the book starts when Wolf says, we're going to go good. But the script started before that, where we see the transformation of Mr. Wolf. And to me, it was like, and Ethan has captured such a fun tone to these characters that I think it was the combination of both was like, yeah, I know what to do with this, you know, I know exactly what to do. And this is why, after that, you know, just took a couple months to actually craft what I was saying, that little trailer and presentation for the studio. And when they saw this, the vision was very clear. And I think people were like, yeah, let's do this, you know. But to me, that's the moment where everything clicked, you know. It was like, it's such a clear idea. I love anthropomorphized animals, you know, it's such a traditional thing to see in animation, right? Since Robin Hood and whatever, all these books, you know, all these movies. I love those, the idea of having animals being like depicted as humans, kind of, or the other way around, whatever. But then playing it in that genre, I think that was like, I love that. You know, there was something so clean about that.
Thank you, Pierre.
Of course.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. That's a wrap on that.
Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.